117.
Yeah, the topics, I guess, still here is kind of the topic, I guess, but in a different way, maybe like putting a different spin on it. We watched a show. What was it called?
Road to Dharma.
Yeah, it's on Gaia, but for all I know, it's other places as well. And it is about a group of people that go on a bicycle ride,
Motorcycle
ride through like
4 sacred peaks of the Himalayas, where there's like temples up there.
Yeah.
But having been to India, the roads are not, interstate quality roads. Let's just say, when there are roads, and these are, and that was in a city. So imagine in the Himalayas, are sometimes the roads just aren't even there. And
it was after the monsoon.
It was after an unusually large monsoon, and some roads were just completely washed out. So I don't know. I've never ridden a motorcycle, but that looked a little bit treacherous. But I think that's, to a degree, part of it was to
feel endangered.
Yeah, I mean, not so much feel endangered, but be, it kind of forces you to be present. You're not daydreaming about, what you're going to do when you get back, the bills you got to pay when you get back. If you're focusing on, trying to not fall off a literal Himalayan mountain.
Yeah, but I think, so the person who led this group was like this American guy, and then his guru, and his name is Anand. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And he's like an Indian guru, I guess. I don't know.
He's young.
But yeah, I guess younger than us. But he has this like, after watching the show, and I've seen him in something else, I don't remember. But like, it's interesting. He has this wisdom combined with like untamed, mild sadism. And I find it extremely entertaining and interesting that he right. So the goal, right, the goal in life is to have true perspective on everything that happens to you, meaning be the witness, right? Be in awareness of the circumstances and have the perspective. But in the Western world, nobody has this awareness. No one's witnessing the circumstances. They pretty much want to be the circumstances.
Right. Very different.
And so I think the goal of this was to put you in a strenuous place of being, both with the mode of transportation,
there's high
accommodations,
high altitude,
low oxygen, bad food,
physical exhaustion, because you're climbing up. Once you drive, you can't drive to the temple. You drive to the parking lot, I guess. Then you got to hike for sometimes many miles to get to the temple.
Yeah. And so it was like, I think it was over 2 weeks of this.
I think it was longer, because I thought at one point he said day 18. So maybe it was closer to 3.
I don't know.
It was a good while.
I don't know. It was a good while. Yeah. But, right, the goal is for you to be challenged outside of your norm.
Mm-hmm.
And in the West, and I think most of these people were from LA, the norm is very different than rural, poor. Yeah, so rural and poor India, right, has its own challenging. But then when you perceive the challenge from its own true perspective of awareness, you just simply recognize that the only difference that you're experiencing is the net comfort difference between, the glory of Los Angeles and the circumstances under which you're in India.
Right.
So, people are going on a spiritual enlightenment journey, but really the journey is, let's put you in a torture-like environment in order for you to gain perspective on the nonsense you're experiencing in LA.
I mean, that's true, because, and it's like, obviously, thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of people in India live in these conditions. And they're not, at no point were they starving to death. This group of, there's 8 riders and there's 8 passengers. Plus, there's a couple mechanics and a support crew. So I don't know, 20, 25 total people. But it was obviously not to the level of comfort that one expects from LA. And some of these people, I think, were rather well off. There's like a lawyer. There's this some lady who's apparently very wealthy. So yeah, the accommodations are not, it's not the Ritz.
Yeah, no, but what I'm going to say is, and everybody, if they want to watch it, can watch it. But basically, the summary is: do you draw awareness, right?
Mhm.
When you get threatened, when you feel unsafe, when things are not to your liking, when patterns of operation change, what becomes important to you, right? And how do you behave? And so the test was that. It was basically, is how do you behave as a human being? And how much awareness do you start to draw on entire life, not just India versus LA in those circumstances. And this is the part that I want to concentrate on. Towards the end of the show, this is something that he said. And he said that, the he didn't say the ideal, but I would say it could be the ideal. So, the contemplation was, do you need to go through weeks of sadistic-like circumstances in order to gain perspective, right? And the answer is obviously no. But there's something that he said. He said that when you move through life and you face challenges, or you're facing opposition from self to overcome self, you can quantum leap and become something else, heal immediately.
Yeah.
And that's the part that I kind of took out of it, is that he said that, I think, in some interesting poking way to the retrospective, like just similar to what, I mentioned before with ayahuasca, is look what you had to go through in order to simply recognize that you struggle at having your open heart and loving yourself and loving others. And this closed-hearted endeavor only exists out of unsafety, right? And they went through 3 weeks of unsafety. And what would it take for you to simply gain perspective on that? And it does not have to be a linear progression of 3 weeks.
Yeah. I mean, that's been my personal experience in my own life, along my own spiritual journey. Because I always had this idea that, if I have something I'm working on, and here I am today, and it's not resolved, and at some point in the future, I would like to resolve it. Let's say it would be some sort of linear path where it's 0% resolved, 10%, 20%, 90%, and then it's 100% resolved. And I just assumed that that's how these things would go. And so when I'm working on something and it just doesn't feel like there's any progress, it's really frustrating, because I'm like, I'm still at 0. I'm not even at 10% yet. And time after time, what actually happens is it is a quantum leap for me. It goes from unresolved to resolved in an instant. Why? I don't know. Something snaps in me or clicks in me, and it just makes sense. I just see the world in a different way, and whatever that was no longer has the same hold over me that it did before. It's really nice when it happens, because it's like, wait, what? That was there it was there the whole time. It really shows me it was there inside of me the whole time. It was just covered up.
The solution was there, or the problem was there?
The solution was there. The problem was never there. It's closer to the problem was never there.
Yeah.
The problem was just some sort of extra thing that I've been lugging along. And once I decide, I'm going to use that word, to let it go, then it's like, oh, that wasn't me. That was just some sort of, ball and chain I've been lugging along for however long.
Yeah. But I think the recognition of that ball and chain that causes your reality to be altered from the truth, and basically the goal is to understand that we are always in our true potential. Like there's nothing that we need to gain in order to be unlimited light, right? And unlimited love and be at peace and tranquility. So the only thing we have to do is remove the barrier that causing that not to shine through, which is the opposite of how the Western world at least thinks about enlightenment, right? Like to begin, I think most people, whenever they start spiritual journey, they think they need to gain something, in order to be enlightened or in order to reach Gnosis.
That's what I thought.
But the truth is, you just need to remove the barriers that causes your enlightenment and Gnosis not to shine through.
Yeah, no, I mean that has been my experience, but like half a step above that is the recognition that all those barriers are choices that we are actively participating in.
Mm-hmm.
So we are choosing to have these barriers to ourselves.
Yeah.
And we don't even realize it. But once you do realize it, then you can go, yeah, I don't want to make this choice anymore. You can see why you've made it. You can see all the things in your life that led up to it, all the traumas, and while whatever it is probably objectively unpleasant. You understand the, we'll say, maybe twisted logic of why it's there and how it did offer some sort of protection, or it did offer some sort of safety, some sort of, you get something out of it. Now on the net, maybe it's negative, but you do get something out of it. And it's just the choice. You have to literally recognize you're choosing this, and maybe instead you want to choose the opposite.
Yeah.
Which is a hard thing for most people to hear. But yeah. All the people on that journey, do you have to motorcycle through the Himalayas to reach enlightenment? No. Does it help? Maybe for some people that would help. Do you need ayahuasca? No. Maybe for some people that will help. It could be, it's a tool, right? But they had the benefit of having a non there to call them out whenever they did something, let's say unaware, right?
Well, he Anand out loud said that they only do this stuff when he's not around, and maybe gets to him through like the grapevine of like
right. Well,
gossip.
they're aware enough to know, oh, I can't do this in front of the leader, the guru, because he'll call me out on it. So there's some level of consciousness, right? But at the same time, as soon as he's gone, or they're alone, or they're with their friends or something, they'll say or do something that is not aware, not present.
Well, they don't want to come across as who they actually think they are, which is a royal idiot.
Yeah, being filmed for a documentary probably just exacerbates that too.
Yeah, because you want to come across a certain way for the documentary, and you don't want to be like an idiot, and you pretend to be all these things.
You certainly don't want to be the biggest bozo on the show.
Yeah, but the biggest bozo on the show ended up being the biggest bozo on the show, right? I think that people who spend the hardest time fighting like their inner trauma are the ones who put out the most amount of nonsense in order to cover up the trauma that they are.
Right. They have to actively.
They're the loudest.
Create almost a story.
And they had to speak the story. The story has to be blown out of proportion and then communicate, right? So the sales pitch of everything that you actually are not is being projected out in hopes that if it's said loud enough and
you can convince enough people, then maybe you can convince yourself.
Yeah, then maybe you can believe it.
That's, literal projection, Jungian projection. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. But the reason why they don't do that in front of him is that they recognize that it's a foolish behavior and they don't want to come across as a fool. But when the cameras are not recording.
Mm.
Right.
Right.
The essence of self still comes there. And so there's this trick, I guess, that you have to kind of overcome yourself, is to go look at the core, that this is my essence. This is what I would be screaming out. And they say like, oh, I was at my lowest and I was struggling or whatever. But that trigger is actually your truth. Well, it's more truth than the facade that you put out.
Right.
That makes it seem like you're all nice and kosher
Sure.
and the best human being to hang around. Right? You're hiding that. And so you think, oh no, look, I was just triggered, therefore that's not me. No, that is quite literally the only you that exists.
Right.
And everything else is the false facade that you're pretending that
Right.
you are.
Which is fine. But the go-to is to, reject that, slice it off and pretend that it's not, which is what they're doing. They're trying to bury it.
Yeah.
Instead of, like you can't even heal it if you can't accept who you are or where you are.
Yeah. Except the painful portion of that concept, not the pretense version that flies out.
Yeah. I mean, it's like if you have an actual problem to solve, a 3D problem in the world, like, I need to, I don't know, I need to build a house, right? You can't just ignore the fact that this is like a swamp. You can't just ignore that, because that would be a problem. I imagine you can't just build a house on a swamp. You have to do something weird, build it on stilts or drain it, or I don't know. So ignoring the problem, pretending it's not there. I'm saying problem, but ignoring the reality, the truth of the situation, doesn't lead to an actual solution. You may end up getting a house on that swamp, but it's just going to kind of sink or fall over or whatever. Probably be very, very muggy.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. But right, the quantum leaping portion of the event is you're willing to dig deep and see who you actually are. The thing that you're afraid of is actually who you are. And then go, oh, yeah, this is my truth. Right? I do feel unsafe, right? Or poor or unworthy or rejected or whatever that is. And you function out of that space. Like the honesty of that space, quite literally actually functioning out of the space.
Mm-hmm.
And you and I don't know, I spent almost a year on that. And it's difficult to be that raw.
It is.
That much.
Because it's
all the time.
Yes, I know. It is. You're just in because I've done it too. And it's just a constant low level panic attack, just 24/7.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I say it's a panic attack, but at the same time, there is this like calm underneath it all.
Mm-hmm.
That's like, the calm's there, but at the same time, from like an observer point of view, it's like, look at all this like panic that I'm putting on top of this calm because why?
Because you feel unsafe.
Yes, but it makes it seem so silly. Like in those moments of clarity, it seems so silly and so simple, and it's just like, why are you doing this to yourself? But that's what leads to the quantum leap.
Yeah, it does. That is exactly what quantum leap is.
Because then it's like, oh, why am I doing this to myself? I don't want to do that anymore. I'm deciding I'm not going to do that anymore. And then it's like, you're not doing it.
Well, yeah, no. But the pattern would come back for you to re-evoke that same response, right? But then that's after that quantum leap of knowing versus being blind to it, right? You can choose to then act differently the next time.
Right.
And then reinforce that acting differently, being awareness, and sooner it goes away, right?
Right.
Like in our case, is it going to bother us? Like just in our case, right? Like whenever I was in that raw way of being for so long, and my goal was not to stop it; it was actually to amplify it and allow that to come through and through and through. And it like literally took months and months and months. It's not that I was drowning the entire time, but I was not letting things hit that spot. Do you know what I mean? Like I would always be like, oh, look, here it is triggering unsafety, or it is here another unsafety and another unsafety. There's all these flavors that kept on coming through, just unsafety and unsafety and unsafety. But it was for so long that like it in the letting go book, right? He was like, oh, I was in the space where I was letting this thing run for 11 days. And I was like, oh, okay. So 11 days is kind of like, there's a possibility for 11 days, right? And I thought that. And, maybe his 11-day interpretation was something different. But to me, it was months. And I'm like, was I, and I'm not saying maybe like more intense, less intense, more intense, less intense. So there's this wave of how much intensity it is. But it was not 11 days, it was months.
Yeah.
It was months in choosing to accept the utter unsafety that was the essence of me, like quite literally the essence of me. And, at times I'm like, wow, I must be really locked up in my all kinds of flows. Because I can't, it's going, it just keeps on going and going and going, right? And then it's interesting because I'm not saying it's not there. I let it be there and I become aware of it, but the intensity has tapered off. At least for me, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it does. It does. The intensity does taper off. It's yeah. When it well, two things. One, yes, the intensity tapers off as you really familiarize yourself with this pain that's been buried and not explored for a lifetime. A and B, my experience with those quantum leaps is that it isn't the 0%, 10%, 20%, 100% thing. It's 0, 100, 0, 100, 0, 100, and I will blip into and out of it. Sometimes for a second or two, and that's like my transition phase. And eventually, I go from more out of it to more into it, and that's been my personal experience for at least some things.
Yeah. No, well, recognition. I guess I interpreted the quantum leaping as the recognition that this is your essence, right? Like, oh, look, I just feel utterly unsafe in all kinds of ways, right? And that is indeed my truth. Like actually accepting that deep, deep, deep down as my truth. And to me, that the acceptance, the actual honest, truthful acceptance of I am somebody who feels utterly unsafe about all of these things is the key, is the quantum leap. That's the way I see it. So once you accept something, then you basically have to allow it to be there and to have it to be present. And everything else post the quantum leap of acceptance is basically you allowing the trapped energy that you have denied, let's say for 40 years to be there as your truth, to finally start coming up. And it's coming up and coming up. And this is the year arc, or, let's say 8 months arc that I'm talking about. It was after I accepted, oh, everything is just unsafe. Like I cannot even fathom how much unsafety I actually feel. And that's the quantum leap for me.
Oh, for me, my quantum leap was the decision to choose differently, to like not choose, like, why do I have these unfortunate circumstances in my life? Because I'm choosing to bring them to me, to actively stop that choice and choose otherwise, which can't happen until you acknowledge your own safety. You acknowledge where it's coming from.
Yeah, I guess it's the same thing. It's just a different side of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I recognize my quantum leap is I feel unsafe. Therefore, everything that I do and the way I act and things I perceived are done out of that. And then there's this total awareness to it. And then your quantum leaps is one by one recognitions of that interpretation. and then you're choosing to not do that anymore. Versus with me, I guess I interpret the one big quantum leap of like, oh, look, everything is out of this. And then the rest of it to me is simply allowing those things to come to the surface, to be identified. Do you know what I mean? Do you see what I mean? So it's not that they are not indeed identified and then released. It's just, to me, I interpret the whole, because it's one thing. It's interesting because you're back at your microscoping and I'm like macroscoping. To me, it's just one thing. It's just this one thing causes everything. And that's how I see it.
Yeah, no, I mean, it is one thing down at that level.
Right, because after you recognize, oh, I just feel unsafe. With me, I can viscerally go, oh my gosh, it's all kinds of nonsensical ways, right? And that's the one identification. That's the one leap that I need to take. And then if a flavor of like, oh, well, because somebody will think that I'm bad, it's just a fake story that I assigned to the one unprocessed truth. Do you see what I mean? And like, oh, well, because like there's fear mongering and people think that there might be some nonsense in the world, right? Oh, well, guess what? It's still hitting that same that same unsafety, right? And so those are just like micro recognitions of the one thing. Again, in my opinion, but I know you disagree with this. Like that is how I like to function. Is I like to take nonsense that I perceive as nonsense and summarize it into its root cause, and then function out of allowing myself to flow under recognition of that one root cause. And then with you want to give each one of those things space, which is not wrong. It's just your approach.
Yeah, I mean that feels like it makes more sense to me, my way, and I'm sure your way makes more sense. Your way seems more efficient, maybe. But like, I don't know, each thing that I can identify, kind of like helps build that habit pattern to me, and maybe makes it easier to keep going on the next one.
Yeah. It's just like, I think, resilience into responsibility.
Yeah.
Right. Like, right.
Which, yeah, it sure doesn't always work, but
well, if you hold yourself responsible, you kind of build yourself up into a pattern where you're willing with small things. And the more small things you're willing to be responsible with and draw recognition from, then ideally you build up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you took the quantum leap and dissected it into mini quantum leaps.
Yes, but it did.
Right, but like Anand's point is the entire trip was not necessary. If you just step back and go,
right.
Why am I behaving like a buffoon?
Right.
And so hence the sadism, right?
Yeah, he did seem to get a little kick out of it isn't even calling people out on their nonsense, which is,
he did.
Yeah, but that's arguably the job of a guru, right?
Yeah.
He goes, guru's not here to be your friend. Teacher's not here to be your friend. You're not supposed to, if you like the teacher, then he's not doing a good job. He needs to be brutally honest with you and tell you what you're doing wrong. And you're not going to want to hear it. Nobody wants to hear what they're doing wrong. They want congratulations. You're doing a good job. You came a long way today.
Yeah, that is a job of a guru. He's doing his job.
Yeah,
it's interesting how much he's enjoying the sadistic.
He does seem to
enjoy
it. That's true.
Right. Yogananda in his book, his entire book is all of these stories of different gurus and different teachings and different interpretations of it, right? And Yogananda's guru would challenge. So, like, when I say sadism, it's basically this purposeful poke to arouse something in you that is trapped. And then that was the goal, is let me poke this at you. But the reason why I say sadism is because he finds enthusiastic fun in the process. So I'm not saying he's a villain. I'm just saying he finds it entertaining to see these, I will not say the word, people struggle with lack of food or lack of comfortable sheets or having to hike or, whatever. Just nonsense, just absolute nonsense.
Right.
So it's like, obviously he's at a higher plane of awareness. They are not. He realizes he needs to poke them, and hence the entire trip is a way to poke them. But at the same time, reinforce, look, you're being poked, but look at the reality of the situation. Okay, look, you don't have food, or you think you don't have food, but what is the reality?
They never didn't have food. They just didn't have the food they wanted. That was the thing that maybe they didn't, it's not the continental breakfast. Here's some bread and here's some, I don't know, coffee, maybe water, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, I think it was coffee. Because I think it had the crack cocaine in it. Because I saw it, I was like, "Ooh, that might have crack cocaine in it."
So they never went without food. It just wasn't,
Yeah, but the goal is to be poked, right? The goal of a guru is to always be poking.
One thing that I found interesting was that Anand is he's not when I imagine an Indian guru, he's not what I imagined, in that he's probably in his mid-30s maybe, and rides a motorcycle, and he's like cool. And I think a lot of the people on the ride wanted to emulate and or impress him or something, and there was a lot of ego in some members of the group. And Anand would ride his motorcycle faster than some people were comfortable riding. And so they were, do I ride at the speed I'm comfortable, or do I ride faster so I can, prove myself to the guru? It felt like there was a lot of people really had their egos hurt by almost this like competition with
but
him.
Everything is there to poke.
Right. No, which I believe he did by design.
Yeah,
right?
Everything.
At one
was
point,
there
he swims across the Ganga River, and he's like, nobody has to do this, because that is not a safe thing to do. It's objectively a very dangerous thing to do.
It was during the monsoon,
and it was during a monsoon, which makes it even worse. Mm-hmm. There's a big sign saying, "Don't do it." But he does it, and a couple people do it with him, and two of them very nearly drowned.
Yeah, but they only told the account of one.
Yeah,
they didn't say anything about the other one.
Yeah, and it's like you would have never just hey, you want to jump in the river and swim across alone? No, it was only because Anand was doing it, and he only did it, I think, to push the ego buttons, and hopefully by having the buttons pressed, you could bring awareness to the fact that that's what it is.
Well, there's the ego buttons, and in that case, all of it is also the biggest ego button is death.
Yeah.
Right. That is just something most people are afraid of dying. And one, they're afraid of dying, and two is once you face the possibility of dying, everything gets set into perspective of like what is important. Right? Is the fact that I don't have the best meal and continental breakfast every morning important, right? And like you and I have poked with that because it's just so audaciously
trivial,
irritating to me, right? For someone to be that self-entitled, but all of it is important because it deep down underneath of it, the pain body of unsafety and being poor and being unrecognized and being unseen and unwanted and rejected. That's what is poking. When I don't have the best meal, I'm reminded of what I'm actually am underneath.
Yeah.
What I actually think that I am.
Yeah. No, that's what that was.
Yeah. And in LA, they have designed this world where, oh, look, and you're almost like trying to paint or reach this fake identity in order to feel like you belong into that group or belong into that social class or belong into that income.
What was it we watched where they were just talking about how that is, LA is just so fake and phony, and it just feeds on itself, creating more fake and phoniness. Which is just a way to extract money as well.
Yeah.
But we watched something. There were two guys and they were talking about that. Yeah, I mean, I like LA in small doses. Can beat the weather.
I didn't even know there was no bugs in LA. Was it Rainn Wilson? Was it Rainn Wilson on his show?
Someone was talking about, yeah, there's no bugs.
No, who was talking about how phony LA is and how it's difficult it is.
It was Rainn Wilson and that was his friend that he met on the show. That's right.
Yeah, but Rainn Wilson is very spiritually aware, and so he recognizes that and he can be an observer to LA group, and he doesn't participate.
That's the thing is that doesnn't mean you can't live in LA. Yeah,
it's just
you can live in LA, but you need to have the awareness that left to the forces of nature, people tend to be sucked into that, and I just need to be aware enough not to. Right.
But through the split of duality, where you find to be less than because you're not enough, LA really pokes at that. Right. Everybody in LA is perceived to be at the top of their game and not more and more and more and more.
Yeah.
And when you come into LA, you have to prove yourself. The whole point of LA is I have to prove myself to really yourself, right?
Yeah.
But because of that lack, you end up in LA. And guess what? LA is just a rat race to where everyone's lacking and trying to prove themselves. So it's a cycle. You can never win. And the only winning is to recognizing what everybody else is participating in, what you have fallen into, and go, do I want to play this game?
The only way to win is not to play.
Yeah. But you can play that game with awareness. You can go, I can pretend like I am a struggling actor who has to serve tables at the coffee shops in the morning and audition in the afternoon. And that's fine. But life is a game. It's a play. And then you can go, okay, well, how do I want to play? Do I want to be in scarcity? That's the quantum leap, right? Like the ultimate quantum leap is move up from the Shakespearean drama and go, hey, I am directing it. Why not direct what I want?
There was a 1980 something, I want to say 82, but I don't know why I would know that, movie called War Games. I think it had Matthew Broderick in it. And I'm going to get the plot terribly wrong, but some kid ends up hacking into the government supercomputer and accidentally, he's like, it's got games on it, and they play tic-tac-toe, and then they play global thermonuclear war, but that actually like starts the simulation of global thermonuclear war, and then people in the Pentagon are freaking out, and they go to DEF CON. Is 1 the bad one or is 5 the bad one? Whatever the bad one is, they keep going up and up or down to where they're ready to launch the missiles, and then the system says that the I guess Soviets at the time we're literally launching missiles, and then he's like, no, it's just a simulation. Don't retaliate and whatever, and he ends up telling the computer, okay, play a whole bunch of games of tic-tac-toe against yourself, right? And if you know how to play tic-tac-toe, it's always a draw, right? Unless you make a mistake, nobody will win a game of tic-tac-toe by two people who know how to play tic-tac-toe. It's always a draw. You cannot win the game. And the computer realizes that global thermonuclear war is the same thing. The only way to win is to not play the game.
So it was like trying to stop AI from filling up the world? Is that what
in the end, it taught AI that, that tic-tac-toe and global thermonuclear war are games that are best left unplayed because nobody wins.
Oh. Yeah.
So same with the stuff in LA. The example that I love because it's just the most mind-numbingly trivial example is sometimes when we're on vacation and we're eating breakfast in a hotel, they will have on television the Weather Channel. It's always the Weather Channel because that's probably safe in that it's not, it's not politicized. It's just weather. But it's unsafe in that everybody is literally about to die from whatever weather's coming. There's the hurricane. It's too hot. It's too cold. There's the polar vortex. There's the drought. There's the floods. It's just the whole. If you watch the Weather Channel for any period of time, you would walk away going, "Oh my God, we are all about to die," and it it never ceases to amaze me how sensational it is over. And I'm not trying to downplay. There are hurricanes, and people do die in hurricanes, and there are floods, and there are these things happen. But, and I know the goal is to sell ads, and you want to sell ads by keeping people engaged, entertained, and when you have the little 3D thing that you stand in, and then the floods rise around you, and then the power thing falls over. That's that makes for good television. I get it, but just the goal is to breed this this fear of weather, and
in order to keep themselves relevant.
In order to keep themselves relevant, right?
But that's the same thing as life.
That's the same thing as life.
The
right?
goal is to design some sort of awesome story around yourself, of whatever. So then you are seen and heard, and you keeping yourself relevant. Because the ego wants to find a reason of why you will be safe.
Yeah.
And being relevant somehow deep down equates to safety.
Right. At a 3D level, I treat weather like I treat road traffic. I don't have to be afraid of it, but some caution could be exercised. But we don't live in an area with flooding or anything, so it doesn't even apply.
We kind of do. we were just right there.
This house isn't, but 2 miles away is. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's like it's literally a force of nature. What are you going to do?
Maybe learn to surrender.
I think that's the lesson.
Yeah,
right?
But why do you need to know what why do you need to disasterize it? Just say, hey, why don't you just surrender into this thing? But most of the people think that knowing is control. They're mitigating against safety through knowing.
I mean, that's been my whole life. Is the more I know, the more control. That's a lesson in not
surrendering.
Right.
Right. Like that is the most obvious. Like the most obvious example of somebody not surrendering and allowing what is to be the truth is watching the news, pretending like that, knowing what's going on, including the Weather Channel, gives you a pretense of control. So therefore, you don't have to surrender.
Right. There is, that isn't to say that you shouldn't know things, but there is recognize that tendency of, I want to know things so that I feel safer.
What's the reason to know things?
I don't necessarily mean know what's going on in the news.
Well, in general, like I guess is there a point in knowing things?
We're sharing our wisdom for people to know.
No, but in this case, I'm trying to unravel. Is there, the wisdom there is, admit to your internal truth and surrender to everything that you're denying, which is your truth, right? Knowing is allowing your truth to be the case.
Yeah, so there's that knowing. I mean,
is it knowing? Is it knowing or is it unknowing? Like you believe that you are unlovable, but the truth is it's not the case. So it's unknowing.
There was a lot of I don't like unknowing, unlearning things that
unbelieving.
That yeah.
It's almost like it's more of unbelieving.
Releasing these false narratives that you have, that you believe. And I've identified a lot in myself that I'm like, I just inherited this belief that is not doing me any good at all for my whole life. And it's like, where did this come from? Maybe I can trace some of them back, maybe not. But when you, and this goes back to that quantum leap, when you see those, you're like, oh my God, I've just always felt like I'm just not enough. I don't want to do that anymore. I'm going to choose to not do that. I'm going to actively not do that. That's another quantum leap type thing is finding those. I mean, that is the same thing we said earlier, just maybe slightly reworded.
Yeah, but I think it's right. It's removing the false narrative, because the truth is you're one divine, pure light, pure love. Not because it needs to be found, it just simply needs to flow, because everything else that you're holding on top of it is just covering the essence of that. Which, I mean, to me, that's like more beautiful than going and searching for something and hoping that you're going to find something, this love, as opposed to like, no, it's just already there. It's just being buried with nonsense.
Right.
Like, one is more empowering, two it's more beautiful. And then, like, at some point, you have to recognize that all of the searching to know is just still a mitigation of some sort of unsafety.
Yeah. I mean, I wonder if everything is.
Yeah, I think it might be the case.
I mean, we're here in 3D Earth having a 3D experience. So knowing things, learning things comes along for the ride to some degree.
Like what?
I don't know. Whatever skills or knowledge you learned for whatever job you happen to do. Maybe
What's the purpose of that?
to have your 3D human experience on Earth. Right? Learn how to lay bricks, and that's how you make money. So you can have your
Is there a
life.
difference between learning and knowing?
I don't know. Like, I mean, maybe this is pedantic, but I would say like you learn a skill, but you know facts. Like, if you're a history professor, you're teaching things that you know, versus if you're teaching someone how to lay bricks, that you're teaching something that you learned. That's a very blurry line. I don't know if there's a difference between knowing and learning. Once you learn something, then you know it. Learning is the process of gaining knowledge, maybe.
Yeah. To me, it seems like a lot of it is unlearning.
I think there is a surprising amount of unlearning in there.
Like, the more I tune into the essence, like that is the essence of humanity, and kind of extrapolate it out as a summary, it's just a matter of unlearning everything that you have learned. If the goal is to, right, and word gnosis, to some people they interpret it as knowing, right? But I think it's meant to be as like uncovering your truth.
Right, which is more releasing false things than it is learning new things.
Yeah.
That's, I mean,
Yeah.
I'll say naive understanding 10 years ago of what a path to enlightenment was learning stuff. I need to get there. I need to gain the knowledge, gain the wisdom to get there. And now I need to unlearn all the nonsense and uncover what was always in me to begin with.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think that's the takeaway of the show was you don't need to motorcycle around the Himalayan mountains. You don't need to live in a cave, join a monastery, become a monk. You don't need to. You can. That is a tool. It might help some people, might accelerate some things, maybe, maybe not. But it's just, you got to dig yourself out. And you could interpret that in kind of both ways.
Yeah. Yeah. That it's interesting because, like, the still here, the quantum leaping, the all that. The lady we came across.
Your foot's blue.
Yeah, I think that my ankle has my blood circulation cut off. It's really blue, isn't it? Maybe I'm unlearning how to be a human. She's like, oh, do you ever spend time like in the higher plane of energetic?
Who said this?
The lady that we met over the cacao ceremony,
Oh, okay.
one of the ladies, and she's like, oh, do you ever just always spend time there, right? Like in this in higher vibratory state of being. And I'm like, I thought, obviously, many people go there and are able to go there, right? But to be on earth and to socialize and to communicate, and like in our case, to record this podcast or to have cacao ceremonies or, do everything that we do, it's almost impossible to like communicate. Like, if the goal is to have an honest, open-hearted relationship with most humans,
The highest rung of that ladder is a difficult place to do that from.
yeah. No, well, it's difficult to hold a conversation, and I guess that was my answer to her. It's difficult to take anything for what people think it is, right? Nothing actually matters, and everything is false, and everything is just there to be awakened to the nonsense thereof.
Yeah.
And so, like, until somebody sees that and then starts on that path, like, I'm like, yeah, there's not really a conversation to be had.
Right. It's like, when I'm like, deep into meditation and I'm somewhere else, it's like, I don't know what conversation is there to have?
Yeah.
I don't. It doesn't even make it doesn't even make sense at that level.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh wait, I got to get the kids to school.
Mm. Yeah, and so I made that.
Gotta check the weather.
Yeah, that's my latest struggle, is like finding ways to make sense of, like, while I'm still here, when when elsewhere is a heck of a lot better than here.
Right.
There you go. There's an answer right there.
Right.
Right. And it's just like interpretation of reality just becomes so nonsensical on any level that is not, just your pure self and open heart. And I think I mentioned this in the last podcast, so I'll say it again. Maybe this is a conversation we can have on the next podcast and actually remember it, is what is there past that recognition, right? Like, what, when you are in your open heart and you're in the vibratory field and everything is seen for what it is, as opposed to some kind of nonsensical label that we put on it, what do you do?
I don't know. I've heard the phrase bliss out. You just sort of bliss out. You sort of sit there in a daze, and I don't know. It's like, some sort of, I always imagine it as some sort of like opium den with people, but there's no drugs. We're just kind of like, which, I don't know. I mean, on one hand, sounds nice. On the other hand, I don't know. Because I'm like, I don't know. Because, I reached various levels of that from time to time, but I'm not in it all day, every day by a long shot. But I probably could be more. Maybe there is some sort of balance, or maybe there is some sort of place where you're up higher and still able to function in the world. I don't know. Probably is. Obviously, there are, Jesus was probably up there pretty high. Buddha was probably up there pretty high. And he was still walking around talking and teaching people. So I think it's probably possible.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think the balance is keeping some nonsense alive in order to stay grounded.
Probably not. Probably not that.
I would advise against that.
Probably not that.
I mean, right, you can be in the world but not of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what it's kind of coming down to, that is, you're in the world but not of it. And obviously, I think, like, one perspective is completely different, right? It's difficult to believe anything that is nonsensical. It's difficult to truly, like, dive into somebody's nonsensical issues other than be at sympathy with their true core that they're not addressing. Do you know what I mean? Like, right. So if somebody's talking to you and then they are struggling with X, right? The X is not
It's never the
anything.
issue. It's never the issue.
Yeah. So
Hey,
at the core, I can see, oh, look, here's the buried density that they are struggling with from the standpoint of this X is just a manifestation of that density. And so I have compassion, I have empathy for the density that they're carrying, but it's difficult to engage on them on the level of that story, because that story is just a manifestation of nonsense that is trying to bury the actual density. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. It's right, but it's very blissful, obviously, but at the same time, it makes me wonder how much bliss is too much bliss.
right.
Not that I don't want more bliss, but it's like at some point that bliss has to like start expanding, right?
Yeah.
And I guess maybe another subject to address is like, that's my thing, is if somebody is able to hold a larger frequency band, like for example, like Jesus, right? He holds a larger frequency band and he's blissed out and he's over there changing water into wine and doing all the magic in the world, right? What is the right path for him to engage with others, to have them have bread and fish or whatever the heck he was doing, right? Or to bring people back from life or things like that. Like, does he have a right to do that?
Right. Well, that's back to where you opened it with, your, do you have the right to
the
it?
Previous podcast that we terminated.
Oh, it was? Okay.
Yeah, no, so that is something that, right? So like once you quantum leap enough and you're just in this blissful state, right? In Ananda's case, he's sadistically poking people to get them into awareness.
Right. It's a tool to him. I mean, he gets pleasure out of it, but it is in the end for the student's benefit.
Yeah.
He just happens to enjoy it too. I see, to me, maybe, I don't know, maybe this is an overly simplistic thing, but it's like Jesus can kind of do whatever he wants to do.
Does he ever? Yeah, but does he have a right to interfere?
It's his job. I don't think it's his job. At least not in the sense that he owes it to the world. But yeah, I guess I think he does.
Yeah, maybe this is a whole other podcast.
Right.
Let's try to remember this.
I mean, okay, well, I'll save it for then.
Oh no, it's okay. You can.
I was going to say, in the example of raising Lazarus, everyone was sad and wanted him back. In the example of feeding the masses, everybody was hungry and wanted fish. So he had explicit or implicit permission to do that, I would say.
Yeah, but I mean, just because everyone's sad doesn't mean that this is not a path of life.
I understand that too. But I don't know. Right, just because everyone's sad. What was it in is it Evan Almighty? Where who is
Steve Carell is the
Yes,
it's a Noah, I think. Is it Noah-ish?
Oh, what's the one where is it Jim Carrey or someone becomes God? And
oh, maybe that is Evan Almighty. I thought Steve Carell was an Evan Almighty.
He doesn't turn into he becomes God for a time period.
Okay.
And he's like, okay, and he can hear all the prayers.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just like, okay, everybody gets what they want. And it's like, the world is not a better place after that. Everybody ends up winning the lottery. Everybody, I don't remember what happens, but just because I'm sad I didn't win the lottery isn't some sort of magical entitlement to free money. Everybody's sad they didn't win the lottery. I mean, it is complicated, and there is no clear-cut answer other than someone like Jesus, I believe, would have the type of judgment that can be trusted to decide if it's right or wrong, which is a huge, Jesus gets to do what Jesus wants to do because he knows better. He gets to brush it off. I think it's a judgment thing. And if you can trust that someone has good judgment, they're not doing it for bad reasons, wrong reasons, whatever, then, right? I don't know. It isn't clear cut. Sometimes right? It's like, I feel like I would know when it's right or wrong, but is that being swayed by my pain body, by my ego? I don't know. I'd like to think that I would be somewhat aware of when it is and isn't, but I don't know.
Yeah. Like, once the ego completely unravels, are you still of earth? Right?
I mean, we've heard of several people who have had a complete ego death, and they're still Eckhart Tolle. They're still around. They're still teaching. They still pay bills, and he donates to charity. Someone asked him if he donates to charity. He's like, he could sense a little hesitation to answer it. He's like, I donate to charity. I do it anonymously. I will not tell you which ones that I do. It's like, because, doesn't want, platinum donor, Eckhart Tolle, that's not his jive. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe a whole episode on that.
Yep.
Done?
Think so?
Yeah. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening.